Hello everyone, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel, and today we got a Glock versus Glock video. We got Glock Generation 2 against Glock Generation 5. Now this isn't necessarily going to be saying one's better than the other, so I don't know if they're different enough for that. But let's take a look at some of the guns and see how they've changed over the last 30 so years. So on this side we got the Glock Generation 2. This is a proper Glock Generation 2 box with the Glock Generation 2 Model 17. Unfortunately, I have the current production 10 round magazine. Standard capacity is 17 rounds. I got 10 round magazines. Just what I had to get, what was available to me. And we have the Generation 5 Glock 19. Let's take a look at the boxes for what it's worth. I think this box is a little more practical, easier to open and close, put more stuff in it. This one's smaller, in case you want to be more compact. It's typically called the Tupperware box. You can really only fit like the gun, a couple magazines, maybe a brush over here. This kind of has a retro coolness to it, but I think objectively this box is better. Now, what do we need? Like, I bought this box by itself, so if there were any accessories in it, I didn't get it. There was a manual. If there were accessories, I didn't get those. I don't know what you could have fit in there. But, this has like a loading tool. This is a different kind. This is not the one that came with it, but the loading tool. We got brush, pull through, put more stuff in here. So I think objectively, the newer Glock box is better. But that's personal preference, opinion. Let's see. Let's keep this straight. I'm gonna keep this gun on that side, that gun on this side. Let's see. These are Glock 19 mags. These are Glock 17 mags. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at these two different generations of guns and see what we can tell just by looking at them. So these are both Gen 5 current production Glock 17 and 19 magazines, both hold 10 rounds. Standard capacity for Glock 17 is 17 rounds. Standard capacity for Glock 19 is 15 rounds. Like I said, these are 10 round magazines. These can be a little hard to load, but I think it's because they're 10 round magazines, and the 10 round magazines are physically narrower. So I can't really talk about how the standard capacity works. But these are difficult to load. The loading tool is nice to have. So let's take a look at the guns. So this is a Glock 17. These are both 9mm striker-fired polymer frame guns. This one was made about 1990. This one was made about... What's that video? Fairly recently, in the last few years or so. So what can we tell just by looking at them? Okay, so first of all, it's hard to show differences in size on camera. But you can see... Actually, that works pretty well. You see that the Glock 17 is more like a quarter of an inch longer there, but significantly longer in the grip. By the way, these are Trijicon night sights. These are True Glow night sights. Neither ones are the factory night sights. Just by looking at these two guns, you can kind of see certain differences. You can see how the finish on the slide here is a little higher gloss, more blue. This one's... I want to say parkerized. It's not a parkerization, but the coating is a little more gray and powdery somehow. The black in the frame is a little more black. This one's a little more shiny. That might just be from age. But what can we tell just by looking at these guns? Let's see. We'll start with the grip. So the grip on the Gen 5 is definitely, I don't say improved, but there's more of it. It's more aggressive. It's holding in your hand a little better. So these little tiny little dots here, kind of going all around the pistol, and it does an objectively better job holding the gun in your hand. That being said, I never really had a hard time grabbing onto this. You really only have checkering in the back and the front. It's not super aggressive. Yeah, this is better. This is grippier. It's better. However, this is not bad. Now keep in mind that the Gen 5 Glocks, you have a backstrap system. You can make it a little bit longer, and I actually like this shorter Glock 19 have a little bit more length this way in my hand. The 17, you have no adjustability there. There's no back straps. However, I think it fits my hand pretty nicely. The magazine release on the Gen 5s are bigger. Here's a little smaller. The Gen 5s have 2 slide releases. So you have a slide release here, a slide release there. This one only has on the left side. Also, the magazine release here is reversible. This is not reversible. If you're going to use the reversible magazine release, you're going to put it on that side. You got to make sure you have magazine cuts on both sides of the magazine. If you have older magazines, it might not have that. Or I guess you could try to do it yourself, but don't do that. Just buy new magazines. Slide serrations on, let's take the magazine out for that. Slide serrations are on this one pretty good. This one actually might be better. This one might be better. Alright, the Gen 2's got something there. These slide serrations seem a little more deep and grippier there. But it has no slide serrations in the front, if people care about that. This one does. A little press check, a little press check. This one has an optics cut. The Gen 5 has an optics cut. Not all Gen 5 Glocks have an optics cut, so it's a option. This one has no provisions for an optics cut because they didn't really exist at the time. Let's take a look at the triggers. How does the trigger compare on these guns that were made like 30 years apart? About the same. About the same, honestly. Some things don't change, huh? About the same, honestly. They both have nice big ejection ports. Notice how the slide here is a little more rounded than that slide. Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, this has an accessory rail. This is, I believe, this is a Picatinny rail, a single position Picatinny rail. This has nothing. Just like that. How are we looking this way? Anything of note? Not too much. Let's take them apart. Let's see. These are both okay. This one in particular seems a little hard to get apart sometimes. It's a little of a nuisance. It's hard to kind of grip this and put it down. Alright, that wasn't too bad that time. Let's take a look at the slides. You can see differences in how the firing pin block is constructed. This one is a little more round. This one's a little more oval shaped because reasons. This one has a double captive recoil spring, and I do believe this double captive recoil spring does something to tame the recoil. And I believe that this gun flips. You shoot it flips a little more because of the recoil spring, and this one flips less because of that double captive recoil spring. It seems to be stronger and seems to absorb the recoil of shooting better. It's a big deal? Eh. See, yeah, Glock 17, Glock 19. This is supposed to be like polyagonal rifling. However, it looks like it's very similar to this traditionally rifled barrel here. I don't know. I'm not an expert on handgun rifling. Looks about the same, right? This one has a cool Glock logo. Let me see. It's a little Glock logo on. I can't show it very well. It's not coming up. There we go. It's a cool little Glock logo. It's very hard to pick up on the camera, but you can see they're similar. I don't think much has changed there. I can see that there's more relief here, more of a circle relief for this front sight. This is a little more subdued, but largely the same. I did notice that on the ejection ports here, this seems to be relieved a little bit more. Just opened up just a little bit on this gun as opposed to this gun. Is it a big deal? Probably not, but little things help. You can see it. You can see how this is more squared off. and this is more cut a little bit. And I believe you would do that to try to minimize the chance of stovepipes. However, I've never had a stovepipe with this gun, but it's there. And again, the finish on these guns, this is a little more glossy. This is a little more almost like Parkerized. Take a look at the frames. Still Glock 17, Glock 19. You can see that just the construction is ever so slightly different. Like this part's a little more forward, this part's a little more back. This ejector looks like it's canted a little more to the right on the Gen 5. There's more parts here. There's an extra part here for the slide release. It doesn't exist on this side. The rail here, the rear rail on the Glock 17 is substantially larger than the Glock 19. I don't know if that's a generational difference or a difference between the 17 and the 19, but you can see how it's noticeably shorter. The rail is further, this rail is further back and it's further forward on here. They appear to be about the same size. It's cool. It's cool. This plate is all the way through on this gun. The plate is kind of recessed here. Going a little closer on that. Yeah, this plate is kind of coming out a little more. This one's a little more recessed. Both have slide serrations here. On the 17 a little wider, the 19 a little tighter. A little box here for some reason, maybe for a sticker or inventory of some kind. That's cool. Alright, let's start putting them back together. Let's see. Alright, start with the Glock 19. Now, how do they shoot? Do they shoot differently? Now, take this to a range, shot them side by side. I don't really have targets. I don't know what this is. There's something stuck right here. I don't know what this is. And I didn't really notice a difference in accuracy. They both seem to be pretty accurate. They both just anecdotally seem to be on par with each other. This particular example shoots really far to the left. I talked about that in a previous video. They seem to be on par as far as accuracy. I will say that the Glock 19, I don't know if it's a difference between the 17 and 19, because these are not the exact same size guns. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get two 17s and have one Gen 2 and one Gen 5. This is just the guns that I have. So if you're going to complain about, well, you really should have a 17 versus a 17, I don't have that. This one flips noticeably less. This one kind of flips a little more. Is it because it's physically longer? Is it because the recoil spring is different? I don't know. But otherwise, a Glock is a Glock. I forgot to point out that this has a little bit of an indentation here. Is that for your thumb? Yeah, I guess that's kind of for your thumb, but I think I'm just going to put my hand here anyway. If you were shooting one-handed, that would make more sense. But while it's cool they have this indentation right here, I don't think you're actually going to do much with it. I don't think you would normally shoot with your hand. If you use a two-handed technique, you wouldn't normally have your hand that far down unless you were shooting one-handed. So while this looks cool, I don't think it really does anything. So which would I choose if I had to choose one? And honestly, I'm going to choose the Glock 19 Gen 5. This isn't a versus video like, oh, this is better than that, but the Glock 19 has an accessory rail, has an optics cut. I shoot just as well with this as I do with that. If for some reason I had to choose one of these two guns, I'm going to choose this one, honestly. And particularly for me, I have 10-round magazines anyway, so the capacity doesn't make a big difference. But for you, 17 versus 15 might matter. But I kind of wanted to come to this video and say, oh, the Gen 2s are the best thing ever, and they should have just stayed with that. But objectively, this simply has more features and has a bigger magazine release, and has a slide release on both sides, and has an optics cut, and has an accessory rail. But the actual shooting experience, they kind of shoot about the same. Except for the fact that I mentioned that this flips a little more. So, this has more features. Has serrations, accessory rails, this and that. It has most of all the features you want on a modern combat handgun. It has a little bit less recoil than this. So honestly, there's really no reason to buy something like this other than you just got a really good deal on it. If you happen to get a really good deal on a Glock 19 or Glock 17, particularly the Glock 19 Gen 2s, I believe are a little more desirable. If you get a good deal, go ahead and pick it up, but there's nothing this does that this doesn't. Cool to have both, though. Maybe that's the moral of the story. Buy both. Buy both. And play with both. Buy all of them. I don't know. So this is Steven from the Even Steven's channel. Those are differences I could tell just as a man with a medium amount of experience and knowledge in firearms, just taking a brief look at the guns, examining them. I don't think anything has fundamentally changed with the Glocks over the years. Just, you know, Glock has done a little bit of tweaks here and there. I forgot to, I think I mentioned the backstrap at one point, but the backstrap, they've tacked on and added little features here and there, but I think a Glock's still a Glock. If you want to buy a Glock, buy the latest Glock. Personally, I don't care for the Gen 3 or the Gen 4 guns because they have finger grooves, and personally I just don't really like that. So if I'm going to get something, I'm going to get a Gen 5 or a Gen 2. The only thing I can think of maybe as a carry gun, maybe a Gen 2 Glock 19 might be kind of cool, because it doesn't have the accessory rail. But like I said, a Glock's a Glock. Internally, they haven't changed all that much over the years, and it's still basically the same gun. So, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel. Please do a like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer as best I can, because I only know so much. I'm just a random guy in my basement on YouTube. And I'll see you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.